I had a fascinating chat the other day with a lady who in her late 60s has started to use and play with AI. And what she told me is that she's now using AI to bounce ideas off, to talk to him on a regular basis. And she joked that actually ChatGPT was one of her new best friends. Now, whilst I won't go that far, and I'd advocate for you to having real best friends in real life, I do think that AI gives us an opportunity to have a fresh perspective on our lives and the work we do, as long as we get some independent human fresh perspectives as well. And I've been using and playing with a Google service called NotebookLM. And what it's done is produce for me, because I've got the What Happens Next book coming out next year, is produce for me a 40-minute podcast designed to help you understand the concepts contained in the book and how you're going to benefit from buying the book. So I'd like to share with you, not what I say about the What Happens Next book, but how AI gives us a fresh perspective and shares what you can do to benefit from the What Happens Next book coming out next year. Welcome to What Happens Next. So today you're going to get a break from hearing from me or any of my guests. And I know that from the feedback we get, you get real value from that. But I wanted to actually share the insights I got from plugging the fully written What Happens Next book, which I only completed last week, into Google Notebook LM. Now, Google Notebook LM does this amazing thing where you can upload a book, upload any document, show it a website, and it will produce a podcast designed to help you summarize and understand a document, a website, or a YouTube video. I want to share with you the audio today, and I want to share with you the insights that Google shared with me via the medium of the interview that it produced based on my book. So without further ado, let's explore that.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into a really huge, decade-spanning decision that, let's be honest, almost everyone faces when they hit midlife.
Mm-hmm.
And that question is simply, what comes next?
Yeah.
If you spent your entire career laser-focused on the spreadsheet, on building wealth, this dive is really about shifting that focus.
It is. It's about building the ultimate roadmap for actually living well.
And we're tackling a problem that I think so many people feel but maybe don't talk about.
Oh, absolutely. It's this deeply felt issue. Most people are, they're excellent at the accumulation phase. They know how to save, how to invest.
They've got that part down.
You got it down.
Yeah.
But then they reach this point of financial security, they hit their number, and they have this sudden, terrifying realization.
Yep, is what?
That they've successfully solved the equation for having enough, but they completely forgot to define what enough is actually for.
Right. Enough for what?
Exactly. And the road ahead, it can look like, decades of this completely undefined freedom.
Which sounds great in theory.
It sounds amazing. But in practice, it often translates into this paralyzing drift.
Exactly. So today, we are diving deep into a really comprehensive body of work, all centered around the book, What Happens Next.
Mm-hmm.
And our mission is to dissect the radical idea at the heart of this material, which is that conventional retirement, that old three-stage life of learn, earn, and rest, is, for all intents and purposes, extinct.
It's completely obsolete. It's been replaced by this imperative, really, to design your own purposeful, dynamic next chapter.
And the sources don't just give us the diagnosis of the problem.
No, that's the great part. They also give us the cure. We're going to be talking about shifting that entire definition of success away from just your net worth.
And towards this idea of total holistic well-being.
And we'll give you the structured approach to do it. We'll be unpacking the NEXT framework.
Right.
And we'll dig into the 7 crucial areas of life that really need your attention to move you from just, financial security to actual flourishing.
I know that a transition like this can feel Well, it can feel completely overwhelming.
It's huge.
So if you're feeling that anxiety right now listening to this, we do want to point you towards some of the amazing resources that are discussed in the material.
Yeah, they're really practical.
There's a fantastic free 5-minute readiness quiz available. It's designed specifically to help you, the listener, uncover your own preparedness for this big shift.
It's a brilliant starting point, just to get a baseline.
A great starting point for that self-evaluation.
And for those who are, ready to go a bit deeper and commit to some real structural change, there's the Inner Circle.
Tell us about that.
Well, it's a program that offers expert resources, weekly insights, and a really detailed free guide. That guide even includes 8 highly recommended books for further development.
So it's about getting the right knowledge.
It's about surrounding yourself with the right knowledge and, crucially, the right accountability to move forward with real intention.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Let's start with history. If this old model is obsolete, we really have to understand where it came from in the first place.
We do.
Because that 3-stage life, learn, earn, rest, it feels so deeply ingrained. It almost feels, well, natural. But it isn't, is it?
No, not at all. It is so easy to assume this is just how humans have always lived.
Right.
But this rigid structure is actually a pretty modern invention. It's a system that was optimized for a very specific time, the industrial economy.
So walk us through that. How did the Industrial Revolution basically define what we think of as a modern lifespan?
Well, before the 18th century, things were very different. Education was informal. You learned skills at home or through an apprenticeship.
And you worked for as long as you could.
You worked until your body gave out, basically. But the Industrial Revolution, it needed a completely different kind of workforce. It needed a standardized, scalable workforce.
And that required that first stage, learning.
Precisely. Compulsory, standardized education. It created the literate, numerate workers you needed for the factory floors and, for corporate administration.
Okay. And the second stage, earn.
That became this intense 40-year commitment to the workforce. That was your core productive output phase.
And then came the third stage, rest, or what we call retirement.
And this is the crucial part. It was invented not primarily for the worker's leisure.
Oh, interesting.
But to manage industrial productivity. It normalized the replacement of older, often slower, workers with younger, more vigorous ones.
So it was about efficiency.
It was all about making sure the engine of industry kept running efficiently. The whole system was optimized for the machine, not for the human lifespan.
So it was basically a societal maintenance program, not a blueprint for personal fulfillment.
You've nailed it.
Okay, so if that blueprint was designed for the 19th century, why does it so completely fail the 21st century person? The sources lay out 4 really key reasons.
The first one, and honestly the most dramatic one, is longevity.
We're just living longer.
We're living monumentally longer than any previous generation. I mean, look at the specific data shared in the sources, particularly for the UK.
Yeah.
For a 60-year-old female today, the average life expectancy is 87.
87.
And get this, there is a stunning 1 in 16 chance of her reaching 100.
Wow, that's 20, 30, even 40 years that the old model just lumps into rest.
It is.
That's the length of an entire career from a previous generation.
It is. And if you retire at 60, you could have 4 decades left. Trying to fill that much time with, just simple leisure activities, it's often impossible. And it can be deeply, deeply dissatisfying. It creates a psychological void.
And the second reason, that's the profound change in the nature of work itself. Right. The old model assumed work was all manual labor.
Exactly. Physically demanding stuff that inevitably breaks down the body.
But that's not the world we live in now.
Not for most people in, say, highly compensated roles. Today, work is based on knowledge, on creativity, on problem solving, on relationships. This kind of work isn't just less physically taxing, but continued engagement in it is often highly desirable. Mental engagement keeps us sharp.
So starving isn't a physical necessity. In fact, it can be a detriment.
It can actually accelerate cognitive decline, which connects directly to the third factor.
Identity.
Yes, identity. We are so defined by what we do, our titles, our industry, our professional connections. They are all woven so tightly into our sense of self.
So if you're an executive or a business owner or a respected teacher, that identity carries a huge amount of social weight.
Massive. And when you step away abruptly, especially if you don't have a replacement structure ready, that identity isn't just, put on a shelf.
It feels like it's been annihilated.
That's the word. It feels like, as the sources put it, stepping off a cliff. You lose your purpose, your routine, and this core understanding of who you are.
And that fourth reason really underscores this shift in what we expect from life now. It's the desire for enrichment.
Right. Our grandparents might have been perfectly satisfied with just financial security and a comfortable chair.
But we want more.
We demand more. We want purpose. We want joy, contribution, deep connection. The old model was fundamentally transactional.
Get the money, then rest.
Right. But the modern challenge requires something fundamentally transformative. It's how do I use my time, my skills, my resources to keep growing and contributing?
So just having enough money isn't enough anymore.
It's completely insufficient to meet these deeper spiritual and relational needs.
And this whole disconnect is perfectly reflected in the word itself. We're still using the word retirement.
Which is French for withdrawal.
Withdrawal. Even the dictionary defines it as a place of seclusion. It conjures this image of being hidden away, separate from society.
And that image is the thing that most vital, capable people in their 50s and 60s fear the most. Disconnection and irrelevance.
This brings us perfectly to that famous anecdote in the source material about Mike, the senior engineer.
Oh, yes.
He solved the financial challenge perfectly. He did everything right on paper, but he hit that void hard.
Mike was a classic high achiever. He had the money. He executed the financial plan to a T. But just a few weeks into his new freedom, he sent that text message.
With the photo.
With a photo of a partially built Messerschmitt model airplane kit. And his note, it was just haunting. He wrote, "This is what retirement has become. Perhaps I need to get out more."
He had replaced decades of complex, high-stakes engineering with a passive hobby.
And the model airplane wasn't satisfying because it lacked external relevance, it lacked any real intellectual challenge, and it offered zero sense of contribution.
So that story is really why this core reframing is so essential.
It is. The whole process of planning has to shift its focus. That initial question, have I got enough money, is, it's necessary, but it's totally incomplete.
The true vital question now is,
Enough for what?
enough to pursue values, enough to sustain your physical health, enough time to maintain relationships. That shift is the entire point of this deep dive.
It requires moving from that linear three-stage life to a multi-stage life that is constantly adapting, learning, and contributing.
Okay, so we've established the problem. You've got decades of potential ahead of you, but also decades of undefined choice. And this freedom, paradoxically, can be the biggest challenge of all.
It is. It's often called the paradox of choice. The sources reference Barry Schwartz's work on what he calls paralysis analysis. If you have to choose between, say, two options, the decision is relatively easy. But if you're facing an overwhelming number of options, learn Cantonese, take up pottery, volunteer, start a business, travel the world, the sheer volume just freezes you.
It's that Padel tennis racket analogy from the book. I want a racket, I go online, and there are 1,000 different models, all promising slightly different things.
Right.
The fear of choosing the wrong one means I spend 3 hours researching, and I either end up buying nothing at all, or I buy one and feel this intense regret that I probably made a suboptimal choice.
Exactly. And when the stakes are as high as how am I going to spend the next 30 years of my life, that paralysis is just, it's acute. How do you even decide?
So what's the solution?
This is why the material insists we need mental frameworks or heuristics, just simple rules of thumb to help us navigate all that complexity without drowning in the detail.
And the central framework here isn't just a list of things to do, it's a real philosophical pivot. It's about moving away from chasing a fleeting state, isn't it?
It is. It moves the whole conversation away from the emotional roller coaster of happiness and towards the sustainable foundation of well-being.
And that distinction is crucial. And it's backed by some solid behavioral science.
Absolutely. Happiness is fleeting. It's a temporary emotional state that's tied to external events or some short-term gratification. As you said, no one is happy all the time.
And if you chase it, you'll never catch it.
That's the paradox. The harder you try to grasp it, the more elusive it feels.
So if happiness is that temporary feeling you get when you, say, achieve a goal, what exactly is well-being?
Well-being is the deeper, broader, and much more sustainable foundation. It's not an emotion, it's a state of being. It encompasses things like resilience to stress, your physical health and energy, strong connection, a deep sense of belonging and purpose.
So it's something you can build.
It's something we can proactively build and improve across multiple areas of our lives, rather than something we just passively wait to receive.
That makes so much sense. You're architecting the conditions for a good life rather than just waiting for good feelings to show up.
Exactly.
Now, when we talk about building this state, The sources use a very specific, very actionable methodology for exploring each area of life.
Yes, it's designed to turn all this theory into actual practice. For every single domain of well-being we're going to discuss, the exploration is structured into 3 clear phases.
Okay.
First, we start with a compelling story, a real-life human anecdote to illustrate the challenge and just make it relatable.
Second, we dig into the research and wisdom.
Right. This is where we bring in the evidence from modern academic insights. Psychology, longevity studies, but also from ancient philosophy, like Stoicism, and insights from guests. This validates the why.
And third, and this is critical, comes the practice.
Yes, this is where the NEXT model comes in, providing specific, practical, low-cost experiments that you can run in your life, literally today. The key is that these are testable, low-risk actions.
And that structure is so important because it forces us to stop seeing these decisions as these huge, high-stakes, once-in-a-lifetime leaps.
Exactly. They're small, iterative tests. We're prototyping our lives. We view these low-cost experiments as opportunities for feedback, not failure.
Right. You don't go out and buy the $100,000 camper van.
No. You rent one for a 2-week trip to see if you actually enjoy that kind of travel. That's the difference between commitment and prototyping. And that shift from analysis to action is the core mechanism that prevents that drift we talked about.
Okay, so before we get into the specific pillars of action, we have to set the foundation.
We do.
And this directly addresses that challenge from the client in the book who, despite achieving all his financial goals, asked that devastating question: who am I without my work?
That's the identity flux. If your identity is tied to an external role, you're the CEO, the senior partner, when that role is gone, the self just seems to disappear along with it.
So where do you find a stable anchor?
The answer, according to the sources, lies in establishing clarity through values. Your values act as this immutable compass when the sea of choices feels endless.
So if your identity is pinned to a job title, you wobble.
You wobble profoundly. But if you anchor to intrinsic values, things like creativity or teaching or adventure or contribution, those values can be expressed in countless ways, regardless of your professional status.
It's amazing how ancient wisdom is so relevant here. The Stoics, like Epictetus, were always so rigorous about this. They constantly warned against pinning your sense of self to externals, your wealth, your job titles, your reputation, because all of that can be lost in an instant.
Your character and your chosen actions are the only things that are truly yours. And modern research, thankfully, validates this centuries later. The sociologist Dr. Sheldon Stryker found that people who maintain a diverse range of identities, who don't over-identify with just a single role, are significantly less prone to depression and disorientation when a primary role is lost.
So diversity of identity creates resilience.
Exactly. And the most important ingredient for that resilient identity is the power of purpose. The sources call this eudaimonic well-being.
What do you mean?
Living a life that's aligned with your best self, focusing on growth and meaning. It's a profound concept. If hedonism is chasing temporary pleasure, the next great meal, the next vacation eudaimonia is about architecting a life of deep, sustained meaning and usefulness.
And the reason we should pursue this isn't just philosophical, is it? It's medical. We need to be specific about the profound impact purpose has on our physical health.
Oh, absolutely. The medical evidence is overwhelming. Studies, especially those by Patricia Boyle at Rush University, show that a strong sense of purpose literally acts as a protective shield.
In what way?
It correlates directly with reduced symptoms of depression, decreased loneliness, greater resilience after a health shock, and significantly improved physical health outcomes.
Like what?
Like a reduced risk of Alzheimer's and better heart function. A sense of why literally helps you live longer and live better.
That is incredible. It elevates purpose from a philosophical nice-to-have to an actual biological necessity.
It does.
It just reinforces Viktor Frankl's insight from his time in the concentration camps. Those who have a why to live can bear almost any how. Purpose gives you the stamina to endure.
So, given how important it is, how does the average person find this why without feeling totally overwhelmed?
That's the million-dollar question.
The sources recommend some really simple, low-cost experiments designed to reveal your core values.
Okay, so the first step is looking backward. Reflect on the past.
You have to mine your own history for data. Think of 3 specific times in your life, and not just professional wins, any moment, where you felt most alive, most fulfilled, most useful. What values were you expressing in those moments? Was it courage, integrity, mentorship, creativity? That's your starting data set.
And the second method uses these intentionally high-stakes questions to cut through the noise.
The three Kinder questions. First, if money were no object, what would you spend your time doing and with whom?
Okay.
Second, if you got a health diagnosis that gave you 5 to 10 years left to live, but in perfect health, how would you radically change your life today?
And the third one is maybe the most visceral.
It is. If you had 24 hours left, what would be your greatest regret?
Wow. Just writing down the raw answer to those three questions would reveal so much about any misalignment between your current reality and your deepest desire.
They are a powerful compass.
And finally, we move into action with prototyping identity.
This is all about running small tests. You don't have to quit your job and declare you're a teacher tomorrow.
Right.
Instead, you run a small test. Offer one guest lecture at a local school. If you're interested in community work, you volunteer for a single small project for just 6 weeks.
The goal isn't commitment, it's feedback.
Exactly. Did that guest lecture energize you or did it drain you? Did the volunteering feel useful or did it feel like a chore? This empirical data is what you need to build your next chapter identity with intention.
This whole intentional iterative process, prototyping, getting feedback, adjusting, is a perfect fit for the NEXT framework.
It is, and we use this mechanism to approach each of the well-being pillars we're about to discuss.
So just remind us, what does NEXT stand for?
NEXT stands for navigate, which is setting the vision and direction, evaluate, which is assessing your current starting point, execute, taking a small, tangible action or experiment, and track, which is checking progress, reflecting, and adjusting the plan.
Okay, so let's apply this immediately, starting with the area most people think they have already solved.
Yeah.
Financial well-being. The core philosophy here is captured by that famous Kurt Vonnegut anecdote about his friend, Joseph Heller, the author of Catch-22.
They're at a lavish party hosted by a hedge fund billionaire.
And Vonnegut asks Heller how he feels, knowing that the billionaire made more money that one day than Catch-22 had made in its entire lifetime.
And Heller's reply is the perfect definition of financial well-being. He says, I've got something that he'll never have.
The knowledge that I've got enough.
That is the essence of it. Money is a tool, not a master. Financial well-being is the psychological piece that comes from clarity, not just the size of the number in your bank account.
So the absence of that clarity breeds stress.
It breeds high stress, a scarcity mindset, it narrows your focus, but clarity, that knowledge of enough, provides true freedom of choice. It gives you the ability to walk away from a draining commitment or to say yes to a purpose-driven project without fear.
So once you have that clarity of enough, the focus shifts to maximizing the well-being you get from that capital.
Yes, and the sources highlight the 5 principles from Elizabeth Dunn and Michael Norton's work on happy money.
These are strategies for spending in ways that actually enhance fulfillment.
The first principle, experiences over stuff. Buying material things gives you a temporary bump that fades really quickly.
Right.
But experiences, a trip, a concert, a class, they provide a sustained triple win.
A triple win.
You get the excitement of anticipation leading up to it, the joy of the experience itself, and then the lasting value of the memory afterwards. You just get so much more life satisfaction per dollar.
Okay, what's the second one?
Second, make it a novelty. We adapt to pleasure extremely quickly. If you buy the best latte every single day, it starts feeling special.
Like the friend in the book who loved golf until he played it nonstop in retirement and it became work.
Exactly. You have to spend money sparingly on things you enjoy to maximize the enjoyment. Keep your favorite luxuries as a treat, not a routine.
Third, buy time.
This is a huge one. Time is the ultimate finite resource. So we should strategically use our capital to delegate tasks we dislike or are just inefficient at-life admin, grocery delivery, cleaning, tax prep.
So spending money to free up time for things that matter
is one of the highest returns on investment you can make for your well-being. Absolutely.
Okay, number 4.
Pay now, consume later. This leverages the power of anticipation. By paying for a holiday 6 months in advance, you get the sustained, slow-release dopamine hit every time you think about the trip.
Which is often more satisfying than an impulse buy.
Much more. Delayed gratification provides a more durable form of pleasure.
And the 5th principle.
Be generous or pro-social spending. Giving money away or spending it on others, whether it's buying a coffee for the person behind you in line or donating to a cause, provides a massive, scientifically validated boost to your own well-being.
Word for it.
We are intrinsically wired for contribution. Acts of generosity reinforce connection and purpose.
So, applying the NEXT framework here starts with navigate.
Right.
You had to define your personal enough. What's the annual cash flow figure that lets you live the purpose-driven life you've defined?
And then the execute step is about getting that number down on paper. You can start with the basic 4% rule as a simple heuristic.
Right. The idea that you can withdraw 4% of a well-diversified portfolio annually.
It's a starting point. But for most people facing a 30-plus year transition, the most critical execution step is to partner with a good financial planner.
Why is that partnership so crucial?
Because a good planner provides so much more than just technical expertise. They act as a thinking partner, they stress test scenarios, they deal with the psychological anxiety of uncertainty, and they provide crucial accountability.
To make sure your spending actually aligns with your purpose.
Exactly. They help you integrate the financial plan into the life plan.
Okay, let's move to the second pillar, physical well-being. The sources are so emphatic about this. Physical health is the non-negotiable foundation of all vitality. If you don't have the energy and health, all the money and purpose in the world are basically meaningless.
This is the kicker we talked about. By the time many high achievers gain financial freedom in their late 50s or 60s, they realize they've completely neglected their physical engine.
And all that time and capital they've accumulated suddenly becomes unusable.
Exactly. Because of poor health.
The story of Steve, the high-stress, low-energy engineer, really highlights how simple the solution can often be.
It does. He wasn't exercising, he was stressed, he felt constantly depleted, and his solution wasn't some grueling marathon or an expensive personal trainer.
He's just walking his dog.
The simple daily commitment to walking his dog for 20 minutes every morning, that single, consistent, low-effort habit set a positive tone and energy level for his entire day. It rarely starts with monumental intensity.
And the science backs this up, this idea of consistency. The World Health Organization suggests just 150 minutes of moderate movement per week.
Which is roughly 20 minutes a day.
And that simple level of activity dramatically reduces your risk of heart disease, diabetes, and even depression.
We so often overestimate what we can do in a single day, but we massively underestimate what we can achieve with consistency over a year.
And we have to talk about the cornerstone of physical well-being, sleep.
Oh, yes. Dr. Matthew Walker calls sleep the single most effective performance-enhancing habit we have.
And we treat it like it's wasted time.
We do. But it's essential for cognitive function, for memory consolidation, for immune system health. We have to shed the mindset that sleep is passive time. It is active maintenance for your brain and your body.
And then there's the Blue Zones research from Dan Buettner looking at areas of extreme longevity. What did they find about daily movement there?
Well, it wasn't about intense gym sessions.
No.
It was about natural movement woven into daily life walking places, gardening, simple manual chores.
What else?
They also consumed simple, primarily plant-based meals and, crucially, maintained robust social networks. The message is just so clear. Consistency and integration beat sporadic intensity every time.
Even the Stoics understood this balance. They advised us to treat the body rigorously, so it may not be disobedient to the mind. The goal is resilience, not six-packs.
So for the execute stage, the practical, low-cost experiments are really straightforward.
Like what?
Adopt the 20-minute walk rule daily. Implement a digital sunset switch off all the blue screens an hour before bed. And crucially, set yourself a firm bedtime, just like you would for a child.
That's the psychological nudge you need.
It is. And this leads us beautifully back to this idea of well-being stacking.
Right. And the sources highlight the model of Good Gym. Tell us how this combines multiple pillars.
Good Gym is brilliant. Members run or cycle to help isolated older people or to participate in community tasks like litter picking.
So one single action gives you
Cardiovascular exercise, which is physical well-being, community service, and contribution, which is community well-being, and it often happens in groups, so that's social well-being.
You get triple the benefit for the time spent.
Which makes the habit far stickier and much more enjoyable.
Okay, so if physical well-being is the foundation, social well-being is the emotional infrastructure of a fulfilled life.
Absolutely. And the data here is perhaps the most compelling of all. It's drawn from the longest longitudinal study ever conducted.
You're talking about the 80-plus year Harvard study of adult development, the study of happiness. What was its single most important finding?
After tracking hundreds of lives for decades, the conclusion was just unequivocal. And it wasn't financial, it was this. The quality of our relationships determines the quality of our lives.
That is a huge statement. And how did they measure that quality?
They found that the people who were the most satisfied in their relationships at age 50 were the healthiest at age 80. Strong connections literally buffer the pain of physical aging and protect cognitive function. It's like having an emotional immune system that reduces the chronic stress that damages the body.
And on the flip side, what's the cost of neglecting this pillar?
The cost is staggering. The U.S. Surgeon General has compared the health impact of chronic loneliness to the physical damage of smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
15 cigarettes a day.
Yeah. We spend immense resources trying to stop negative habits like smoking, but we so often allow our friendships to just atrophy through passive neglect. The sources insist we have to start prioritizing friendship maintenance.
And the philosophers have been saying this for millennia.
They have. Aristotle viewed friendship as a necessary foundation for a virtuous life. Seneca advised that we must strive for self-reliance, but never for solitude.
And Confucius.
Confucius emphasized that human flourishing is inherently relational, built on community and mutual obligation.
So the challenge is moving from just knowing this to actually doing something about it.
It is. Life is busy, friendships take effort. The sources highlight this need to be more Mike or Cassie. These are people who are ruthless about scheduling dates, checking in, and just making time for those connections.
It doesn't happen by magic.
It requires intention.
So let's look at some low-cost experiments for the execute phase here. How do we fight that drift in our social circles?
Start with the 3-message Sunday habit. Just commit to sending 3 short, meaningful messages every Sunday to people you haven't spoken to in a while. No agenda, just a connection.
I like that. Another good one is to make social connection a game.
Yes, write down 10 names of people you'd like to reconnect with on a list and commit to calling one per week. Or use a digital tool like Wheel of Names to randomize it.
Takes the pressure off.
Turns the task into a fun, low-pressure commitment. And finally, just create a club. It doesn't need to be formal or complex. It could be a regular curry club, a monthly walking group, or a simple neighborhood coffee morning.
The consistency of the structure provides an anchor for connection.
Exactly. And the social stacking opportunities here are incredible. If you execute by inviting a friend for a weekly walk, you're stacking physical and social well-being.
Or if you start a learning club, you're stacking social and intellectual well-being.
This multi-benefit approach is what makes these new habits sustainable.
Okay, that brings us to intellectual and occupational well-being. This pillar directly addresses that psychological void created by stepping off the cliff of a main career.
We mentioned Uncle Jimmy, who retired early and deteriorated rapidly. The challenge is replacing that structured, purposeful engagement.
The old model was learn, earn, rest. The new model, championed by people who've really redefined their later years, like Roland Butcher,
The first black cricketer to play for England.
is learn, earn, and then give back.
The focus shifts from transactional income to generative contribution. And the evidence shows that continued work is hugely beneficial. But
But there's a catch.
there's a big catch. It's only beneficial if that work is high quality. The research is very clear that later life engagement must be meaningful, flexible, intellectually stimulating, and socially connected.
So high-stress, low-autonomy work is actually bad for you.
It's detrimental. It accelerates burnout. The goal is engagement that doesn't dominate your time.
Philosophers have always understood this need for challenge. Plato, Aristotle, Richard Sennett, they all emphasize that purposeful activity and mental engagement are essential for human dignity at any age.
And Confucius stressed lifelong learning and mentoring. The best way to reinforce your own knowledge is to pass it on. This is that give back phase Roland Butcher talked about.
So how do we find this flight path instead of just jumping off the cliff? The NEXT framework helps us navigate this transition through 3 essential low-cost experiments.
First, you have to make room to decide. This means blocking out 1 non-negotiable half-day per week as pilot project time.
And this isn't for admin.
No, this is reserved for exploration. Deep reading, volunteering, taking an online course, or just calling an interesting person you admire to ask about their journey.
Okay. Second, try some new stuff.
This is the prototyping phase. Mentor a young person, shadow a role you've always been curious about. Take a short, specific online course that is completely outside your comfort zone.
The goal is just to gather data on what energizes you.
That's it. And third, use language to reinforce the shift. Tell yourself a different story. When someone asks what you do, don't answer with your former title.
Answer with where you're heading.
Exactly. I used to be an engineer, but now I'm exploring creative education. This rehearses your new identity and starts to make it real.
And the track phase here is so vital. You have to reflect on these experiments.
You do. After that guest lecture or volunteering stint, rank it. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much autonomy did I have? How stressful was it? How purposeful did it feel? How much human connection did it offer?
This ensures you're constantly course-correcting toward activities that align with your true values.
And as Seneca said, if you want to learn, teach.
Okay, the final pillar, community well-being. This one feels like the glue that holds everything else together.
It really is. It taps into a fundamental neurological drive we all have known as the helper's high.
What exactly is the helper's high?
It's a verifiable psychological phenomenon. When you perform acts of kindness and contribution, your brain releases endorphins, oxytocin, and dopamine.
The body's natural stress-reducing and bonding chemicals.
Precisely. When you give, your brain literally rewards you.
And this isn't just a feeling. It's backed by research.
Oh, absolutely. The University of Exeter found that regular volunteers consistently reported higher life satisfaction and significantly lower depression rates, even when you control for variables like income or prior education.
We're biologically engineered to find fulfillment through contribution.
We are, which leads to the powerful paradox of self-interest. We fulfill our core psychological needs for autonomy, competence, and relatedness by focusing our energy outward.
So the more you focus on others,
The more fulfilled and whole you become internally.
this is the shift into what the book calls the significance phase.
Yes. You move beyond the self-focus of survival and sustainability, and you aim toward making a positive dent in the universe. It doesn't have to be monumental, it just needs to be meaningful.
And we know from things like the Marmot Review that strong community cohesion is a massive determinant of both physical and mental health.
And helping in groups, like that good gym example, it multiplies the effect because you're combining contribution with social connection.
So for the execute phase, the low-cost experiments are about taking small steps toward contribution.
Start with micro-volunteering. You can use platforms like Be My Eyes, where you help visually impaired users remotely, or Do It, which matches your skills to local needs.
Or you could just start small, right where you live. Start a local community group.
It could be a book swap box, a tool lending library, or an online meetup for people navigating midlife transitions.
You can even start with a simple goal. Organize a small event to tidy up a shared local space or plant some wildflowers and just invite your neighbors to help.
That shared action is such a low-pressure way to build cohesion.
And applying NEXT to community well-being means we navigate by mapping our existing support circles and identifying the gaps.
Where do you need more help, and where can you give more help?
Converse stacking.
Focus on a local skill swap. Find someone who needs to learn a skill you possess and offer to teach them. In return, ask them not to pay you back, but to pass the favor on to someone else in the community.
So you're combining learning, contribution, and social growth all in one.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have spent a lot of time defining what comes next. But the hardest part of any major life transformation is just starting right now. If we know we need to take intentional action, why do we procrastinate so much?
Because our brains are wired for immediate threats and rewards, not for 30-year projections. We suffer from what you could call future self procrastination.
My future self will volunteer, travel, and exercise.
Exactly. The silent thief of midlife is not failure, it's drift. Just living on autopilot and letting inertia guide you is the surest path to regret.
Which underscores the importance of that Seneca quote, even if it is slightly misattributed.
If a man does not know to what port he is steering, no wind is favorable. You need the destination, your purpose and values, to make sense of the immediate actions. Intentional action is the only thing that combats drift.
And this shift fundamentally redefines what success even means.
It does. Success becomes less about external accumulation, the size of your house or your balance sheet, and more about internal alignment.
Are you living in a way that matches your core values?
That is Aristotle's definition of eudaimonia. Choosing work and activity that feels useful, challenging, and meaningful, regardless of how impressive it looks to others.
And we have to avoid the trap of perfectionism. Designing a multi-decade future is terrifying if you expect the plan to be infallible.
Right. As the great modern philosopher Mike Tyson wisely observed, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
So you need a flexible plan.
You need a NEXT Plan 1 that can be revisited, evaluated, and adjusted when life inevitably intervenes. The goal is continuous calibration, not flawless execution.
And critically, you cannot and you absolutely should not attempt this level of transformation alone.
No.
Navigating identity shifts, financial complexity, and decades of freedom is a team sport. The sources detail 5 key roles you need to collaborate with.
The first and most critical relationship is your partner. They are essential. This transition demands open dialogue about renegotiating shared routines, identities, and time.
You need to plan time together and time apart.
Exactly. Time for connection and time for individual growth. If your partner's vision for the next chapter clashes with yours, friction is absolutely guaranteed.
Okay, number 2.
Your financial planner or guide. They are your indispensable thinking partner. They translate your defined purpose, your enough for what, into a living financial roadmap. They stress test scenarios and provide that clarity.
Third, a retirement or transition coach.
This person deals with the psychological and the narrative aspects. They're a sounding board. They help you navigate the identity void. They encourage you through the prototyping phase, and they provide accountability for designing those new routines.
Number 4, your professional advisors.
Your solicitor and your accountant. They're the technical safety net. You need proactive planning, 3 to 5 years out, to maximize tax efficiency and ensure your legal framework powers of attorney, reflects your new reality.
And finally, number 5.
Someone who's already walked the path. This is your mentor or your peer, someone who is 5 to 10 years ahead of you and can offer invaluable data based on their own mistakes and successes.
That lived wisdom is something no book can replicate.
It's priceless. We have to recognize that asking for help is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of wisdom.
The ultimate goal is moving past this myth of fierce independence and towards interdependence.
Acknowledging that we flourish through connection and that building this team is the most effective way to ensure your next chapter is defined by success and alignment.
So this deep dive has really shown us that the future isn't about passive withdrawal. It's a huge opportunity to build a multi-stage life that's defined by intentional action. And this intentionality, it rests on a dual focus on holistic well-being across those 7 crucial areas and on the practical process of continuous action, which is embodied by the NEXT framework.
And every big change starts small. It just requires recognizing that the structure is there to prevent drift, but the action, the decision to actually prototype, has to come from you.
So here's our final thought for you, the listener, to carry forward and act upon today. Your journey to what happens next requires only one non-negotiable step right now.
And that is identifying your team.
Exactly.
Who are the 5 people, your partner, your guide, your coach, your professional advisors, and your mentor, who will invite to help you navigate, evaluate, execute, and track your next steps.
Because even though stuff happens,
so does support and serendipity and sustained success when you intentionally build the right foundation and the right team around you.
Don't forget, you can dive further into all these concepts. You can take the 5-minute readiness quiz and explore joining the inner circle for exclusive expert interviews and resources.
Start prototyping.
Start asking yourself those kind yet provocative questions, and please let us know what discoveries you make. We'll see you on the next deep dive.